Okay. And welcome everybody to Wednesday Night Slides number 53. Got a real potpourri of stuff tonight. Some train stuff, some non-train stuff. It's just a real mixture. So let me share the screen here and we shall get underway. As always, during the program, I welcome you to jump in with questions or comments. Easiest way to do that is just to press the space bar on your computer to get access to your microphone easily, and you can ask your question or make your comment. We're going to get started here with something a little unusual. Not far from where I am right now, we have a golf club that has closed down. And of course, being I'm into the photography thing, and that's what this is all about, I meandered over there just to get some shots of what was still left. It's the Beckett Golf Club. It's located just south of Swedesboro, New Jersey. As you can see, it is closed. And nature is rapidly taking over. That's the main entrance. The club, being it's in South Jersey, the golf course itself is, I guess, was pretty tame. I might have played it once way back when I was playing golf. Flat, open. Here's the driving area, practice range. And some of the golf paths are beginning to be reclaimed by nature. It says you can come on in, but I didn't. Depending on who you talk to, this is either going to be redeveloped into housing or redeveloped as a golf course. Who knows at this point? It's kind of murky what the fate of it is going to wind up being. There's looking down one of the fairways. Golf cart path across the road here. The stop sign is pretty faded. And one of the tees underneath a lonesome pine. It was a 27-hole golf course. 9 of the holes have been sold off already and been redeveloped for other things. The remaining 18 holes, like I said, I'm not sure if they're going to wind up being redeveloped or put back as a golf course or what's going to happen to them. Changing gears, we're going to head over to Vineland, New Jersey. They were the last city in New Jersey to generate its own electricity. And they stopped doing that a year or so ago, and the plant is being demolished. The highlight of the plant, as far as aesthetics go, is, of course, that huge neon sign on top. And they set a budget for the demolition. The city did. They set a budget for the demolition. The contractor they wound up with came in fairly inexpensively, and there was room in that budget that they had passed to actually remove the sign and preserve it. So the sign is going to come down. It's going to go get remounted in a park, and unfortunately, the neon's going to go. It's going to get relit with LED lighting, but still, it's a step in the right direction. It was coal-fired at one time, served by the Jersey Central. The present day Winchester and Western still goes past it, but doesn't stop. Randy, you sound like Mickey Mouse again. . On a more positive side, I was driving around north of Reading, Pennsylvania, and found some nicely functional neon. This is the Quick Shop Inn, located on US 61 near Shoemakersville between Reading and Port Clinton, for those who are familiar with the Reading and Northern. And then just down the street from there, in Tuckerton, is Shell's Dairy Swirl. Nice ice cream parlor, well lit with neon. And next door to that is Shell's Hot Dogs and Barbecue. Okay, we're going to jump into trains here for a little bit. Last month, I showed this shot of Canadian National Box Cab 6714. It's currently sits at the Connecticut Trolley Museum in Warehouse Point. The museum says it's going to go away. What that exactly means, I don't know. They're staying pretty tight-lipped about it. But this got me thinking about, all my trips I took up to Montreal to photograph the electrification up there. So I went back into my slides and I dug out some of my trips. My first trip to Montreal was actually in 1980. And while I was interested in seeing the CN Electrics, somehow I never got over there to shoot them. I remember asking somebody for directions over there, and between bad maps and all the signs in French, I wound up giving up and didn't get over to Mont-Royal where the electrics run under. So my first real look at the electrics was in October 1982. This is at Portal Heights. This is where the tunnel out of Mont-Royal comes out. The other end of the tunnel is in Central Station in downtown Montreal. The line, in addition to the electrified powered trains, they also use these electric MUs, the multiple unit cars, to supplement the locomotive hauled passenger trains. And here we see one of the box cabs. This is at Eastern Junction. And I also found out when I was going through these slides that in all my visits up there, I only shot the electrics in 4 locations. Portal Heights, which was where the tunnel comes out, Mont-Royal, next station down, Eastern Junction, which is just beyond that, and then the last place was all the way out to the end of the line at Dumontaine, 2 mountains. We see double-headed box cabs at Eastern Junction. This has all been replaced. This is now a grade separated junction with a flyover. In addition to the box cabs, they had these General Electric center cabs. Here's a pair of them leading the train, I believe, into Montreal. The other thing I discovered when I visited Montreal over all the years was I was almost always there in bad weather. Here we see 2 of the center cabs at sunset. In 1987, I went to downtown Montreal. This is at Central Station, and here we see a pair of box cabs on the platform ready to come out. What was really cool was there were some diesel powered trains, like this Spud RDC or locomotive powered trains, diesel powered, that originated in Central Station that would come out through the tunnel. But because the tunnel is all uphill out of Montreal to Portal Heights, those trains would be towed out by an electric. Here we see a Bud car being pulled out by one of the center cabs. Trains going into Montreal didn't have that problem. Since it was all downhill, they just shut the engine down and coasted on in. This is at the Mont-Royal station, which is the second station out from the tunnel. This is a mystery trip. Somehow, this is like the only shot I have on the electrification from that trip. And I know I must have shot more. I must have a box or two of missing slides I got to find. Because this seems kind of odd that I only got this one shot out on the electrification. June 1988, I was back again. Here we see the multiple unit cars. This is up at Dumontaine at the end of the line. So this car came in, it stopped, it was ready to go into Montreal. And we decided to do some night shots. We broke out our flash gear, which back then was flash bulbs. And while we were setting up, the train crew came over, and the first guy asked me something in French. I said, I don't understand French, sorry. And his partner said, he's asking if you need the train moved for your photos. I'm like, no, it's fine where it is. No problem. That's the shot we got that night. Once again, nasty weather. This is the next day. It's raining. A pair of the box cabs heading into Montreal. There's the 6714, which I believe is the engine that's at Warehouse Point in Connecticut. I can't remember what I showed, 10 slides ago. The MU is going in.
Steve, if I might, those were at Val Royal, so you were at 5 locations.
Val Royal. Wow. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Set of MUs, a pan shot going in, coming out of the city, I believe. Back in the film days, pan shots were tricky because they were fairly low success rate, and being on film, they get real expensive real fast. And a set of the box cabs. Here we are at Mont-Royal station. You can see the Portal Heights station off in the distance, then the tunnel right at the end of the Portal Heights station. Here's one of those diesel powered trains being towed out of Central Station. And the box cabs at, this is June 89 now, the box cabs at Eastern Junction. Here's a box cab ready to, must have just gotten off the RDC here. And where was this? I can get John Godfrey back on here again. Where was this taken, John?
That's at EJ. You're round the curve to the left will take you back to Mont-Royal. The Bud's headed to Goyer, just a mile or two down to go onto the CP to go to Quebec.
Okay.
And the box cabs in the pocket track ready to drop back down the hill.
Okay, great. I couldn't remember how far out they actually towed the trains. Here we see a locomotive, I guess it's in the pocket track here with a train going into the city going by in the background. Finally got some nice sunny weather here for a shot at Eastern Junction. And then December 1991 was my last trip up there, I think, with the box cabs are still in service. This is up at Dumontaine, end of the line. The station sign is gone by this time. Night shot with the center cabs. And this I'm rather pleased with because it was shot on film, so it was a best guess at existing light. And it came out really well with the sky and everything. Almost a copy of the shot I had taken several years earlier with flash. Difference being, of course, the twilight sky and the lack of a station sign on the station there.
It might be in John's basement.
There's a good chance that it is. Wish I'd seen this operation a little more often, even though I did 5 trips in 10 years. Really couldn't get enough of these. So this is what it looked like at Portal Heights back when the old equipment was running. In the early 1990s, they did a modernization program, replaced just about everything, retired all the old equipment. And when I went back in 1996, here's the new equipment with the new wire, new station. This is the Portal Heights station, but they changed the name to Kenora. Mont-Royal became Montpelier, I believe. And
No, Mont-Royal stayed Mont-Royal.
okay, and the next one out is Montpelier. Okay, all right. I only shot this one day. This is the only shots I have of this generation of equipment on the line. Since this was shot, and just fairly recently, all this is being torn up again, just torn up for light rail. We're going to replace the heavy rail with the light rail. I'm sure there's a good reason behind that, but
No, there isn't.
okay.
I was waiting for
Absolutely.
John to say that since he lives down there, but yeah.
That's a look back in time at the CN Electrics. We're going to change gears again here. Head out to Reading, Pennsylvania, to the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum, located at the airport in Reading. And each year, first weekend in June, they have their World War II weekend. They bring in hundreds of reenactors, dozens of airplanes. It's quite the thing. This was on Friday and Saturday of the first weekend in June. Friday was stinking hot. It was in the mid-90s, humid, and nobody wanted to do anything. Most of the reenactors stayed undercover in their tents. Most of the photographers that were there were more than content to sit in the shade. But anyhow, each day they do a reenactment of a battle in a French village. So here's some shots from the battle. Prisoner of war, German prisoner of war being processed. Injured troop. It's pretty cool. They put on a pretty good show here. We had a twilight photo shoot, sunset photo shoot at 8 o'clock. Handful of us went out onto the airfield to get some shots of the planes that weren't on public display, but were used for, they took passengers up in them and flew them during the air show. Here we see a Douglas C-47D. Now I am terrible at airplanes. I'm marginally good at trains. I'm terrible at airplanes. I likely have something misidentified here, and the museum's website was completely useless to try to look things up. So I'm winging it. Under the wing of the of that plane, we're looking out at the B-29 Fifi. B-29s, they're very distinctive when they're in the air. They have a real distinct growl to them when they're flying. Anyhow, we tried to convince ourselves this was really cool sunset stuff, even though we had a sliver of light out there on the horizon. It actually was pretty dull. Next morning, though, we were up before the sun came up and back out on the strip again for some sunrise shots. So after a few roster shots of the planes with the rising sun, some reenactors came out to prepare for a flight. So they geared up. Had the prayer. Then we had some time to do some portraits. This is the chaplain. And then some members of the crew. Randy, you're still Mickey Mousing. And then some other reenactors, non-military, were on hand as well. Here we see a fall line with a German tank. We were finished with our morning shoot at around 7:30, but the gates don't open up until 8:30. So officially, you can't go into any of the reenactor areas until opening time because the reenactors are busy waking up, having breakfast, getting dressed, stuff like that. But we could walk the runways and taxiways here. And anything we could shoot from the taxiway we could get, such as this shot here. And this shot, this guy looks like he's ready to tackle the day.
Steve, where was it again? It's amazing.
Reading, Pennsylvania, at the Reading Airport, Mid-Atlantic Air Museum.
Beautiful.
Pete Laro was here. He's a reenactor, and he also does the Live the Night photo session that you'll see in a few minutes. The key for this is to get a hold of Pete and just follow him around because he's always finding great shots to shoot. So this is inside the Cafe Napoleon in the French Village. I just noticed I caught a modern Sprite can in the lower right corner. Got to watch out for that next time.
Hey, Steve, are these like just models or actors who are hired, or are these people who are members of this historical society and reenactors as their hobby?
The reenactors is their hobby. They come out and they just like to get dressed up in period clothing and do their thing. The majority of them are used to being in front of a camera. And don't mind their photos taken. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, these are great.
And then there's a old Gulf station on site. So we did some shots there.
So did you go and get a Civil Air Patrol mess tent meal with Spam?
I did. I had for breakfast on Saturday. I had the breakfast with Spam.
I was a member of Civil Air Patrol Reading Squadron, and I was on the other end of things for a while, doing those things.
Cool. Here's the crew that was with the steerman. And then I passed up doing the air show, which is best shot from the other side of the airport where the sun's better, to stay on this side of the airport and see the flamethrower demonstration. If you've never seen a flamethrower, wow, it's something else. It takes a few seconds, but the heat that comes off of this thing gets to you, and it's really something else. This may have been the first time they had a flamethrower demonstration at the air show, at the weekend. It hadn't rained for weeks, so they had fire suppression people standing by just behind the flamethrower, and then if that got out of hand, they actually had a couple of fire trucks beyond that to swoop in should the flames go where they weren't supposed to go. Then came the night photo session. This plane here, this one here, I could not find out what it was. I looked all over the internet and museum website and just no indication. Anyhow, what we do for these night photo sessions for the airplanes is they wet down the runway with a fire truck. Get the runway nice and wet for reflection, and they fire the planes up for about 10 minutes. And it's fixed lighting, so you got 10 minutes to move around to various angles and shoot what you can. Whenever the planes first fire up, usually a flame comes out from somewhere. You see the flame here coming out of the your left-hand side of the plane here, as you look at it. And these are all 1 second exposures. You need 1 second to get the full propeller blur.
You're beautiful.
What's your speed at 1 second, Steve?
1 second is the speed.
Never mind your ASA.
We were we were shooting about ASA 400 F7-1 thereabouts.
All right.
And there it was over to the steerman. I don't know what puts out those lightning bolts, but they're pretty cool. And they were there the entire time the plane was revved up.
Static electricity, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I incorporated one of the lights, so just for a different angle here. One of the lights that was used for the fixed lighting. You can see the runway's been wet down. There's just in front of the plane. It's a little dry in front of where I was shooting here.
Steve, one of the other guys said that previous aircraft was a P-38 Air Cobra. He's totally correct. Yep.
Okay, great.
P-39.
39.
39.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, made by Bell.
An Aerocobra, right?
Yep. Very rare aircraft nowadays.
Yes, the engine was mid-engine and it drove the drive shaft underneath the pilot.
Yep.
Then they finished off with this Japanese Val, which is a replica that was put together for use in the movie Tora, Tora, Tora. This had this constant blue flame coming out of the side of it during the shoot. After that, it was pack up and go home. The air show continued on the next day, but I had pretty much gotten what I wanted. It was all pretty cool for the price of the night photo session, which was $200. Not only did you get the night photo session, but you got the Friday evening, Saturday morning walkthroughs out on the tarmac, and you got a pass to the VIP tent for free lunch, as well as admission to the museum for that day. So it was actually a pretty good value. We're gonna wrap things up here with some current events. Back to trains again. 611, Norfolk and Western 611 has been at Strasburg for a little more than a year now, I guess. Anyhow, it has since departed, headed back home to Roanoke, Virginia. And Strasburg put together a farewell weekend for it over Memorial Day weekend. Also running that day was Norfolk and Western 480, number 475, crossing over the Pumpkinville Turnpike, and the 611. A couple days later, all these yellow flowers were gone. Came and went pretty fast. This is a tunnel of trees near Paradise, Pennsylvania. But it framed up pretty cool with the 611. And then the quintessential Lancaster County, Pennsylvania shot. Trains going by the cemetery at Carpenter's Crossing, the oldest cemetery in Lancaster County. 475 and 611.
Must have been dead quiet for those shots.
Continuing on, I headed out to Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. I hadn't done a whole lot with Norfolk Southern's Lurgan line, which runs from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania down to Hagerstown, Maryland. Mostly ex-Reading trackage. But since I was heading out to Chambersburg, I spent the afternoon on the Lurgan line. This is at Boiling Spring. Also at Boiling Spring, this train's going Railroad West, geographically south. Somebody out fishing along the creek with an eastbound train. That eastbound train had a DPU, a helper on the back. From there is down to Chambersburg. Here we see another westbound train. The line is kind of busy, sort of, maybe. That's on the back of that same train. That's the DPU going away. So then this was the last train I saw before the evening. So 5 trains in about 5 hours. That's not too bad for the Lurgan. Reason I was down in Chambersburg, though, was for a night photo session on the Pennsylvania and Southern Railroad. They had just finished painting locomotive number 16, which is an ex-Canadian National locomotive, the one on the far left. Painted it into a scheme inspired by the old Pittsburgh and Shawmut Railroad, joining their other 2 diesels already in flag paint schemes. Here's the 16 and the 17. And the 16, the railroad is located on the Letterkenny Army Depot, which is now partially an industrial park and partially still Army. Anyhow, the Letterkenny Fire Department came out and posed in the shots for us. And hooked up some orders. And 3-engine lineup. '18 ready to go back into the engine house for the night. And then just this past weekend, I went up to the area near Phillipsburg, New Jersey, home of the Belvedere and Delaware Railway. And that's where the Delaware River Rail excursions currently run. And along the way up, I followed the old abandoned, now a trail, ex-Pennsylvania Railroad, Belvedere and Delaware line. And there's just still a few stations along the line. This is the one in Stockton, New Jersey. The heavily modified station with some additions on it in Frenchtown. And the depot in Milford, New Jersey. Recently an eatery, but now closed. The Stockton station is a neighborhood convenience store. The Frenchtown station is a restaurant. This was a restaurant. So the reason I was going up here was because the Delaware River Rail excursions was using a locomotive that I had shot many times over the past 35 years. Let's go back to 1987. We're in Millville, New Jersey. This is ex-Nickel Plate Road, GP9 number 811, working on the Winchester and Western, switching the Wheaton glass plant in Millville. This is from 1987. Here we are pacing it between Millville and Vineland. And this is up in Vineland. That's from 87. Then we go to 2011. Here's the 811 going past the old Franklin Feeds plant west of Vineland in Norma, New Jersey. Here it is going past the Vineland electric plant you saw earlier. This is the back side of the plant. This is on the old C&J in Vineland. And in Millville, going past one of the churches there. And finally, in 2018, here you see it working on the Winchester and Western, switching Durand glass in Millville. And yeah, the 811 has since left the Winchester and Western. It was purchased by the Black River and Western, the tourist operation and freight operation out of Flemington, New Jersey, Ringgoes, New Jersey. And it is now being used on Black River and Western's affiliated Belvedere and Delaware Railway by the Delaware River Rail excursions. So here we see the 811 as it was last weekend. Like I said, I shot this back in 87 here in South Jersey. Out of Phillipsburg, the line follows the Delaware River pretty closely. For the first 3 or 4 miles, there's no access. So all of these shots here are between Carpentersville and Regalsville. Some was in and out for the most part. Here's the runaround track in Regalsville. From here, the engine runs around, gets on the other end, and runs long hood forward against the sun back up to Phillipsburg. Not wanting to deal with a long hood forward out of the sun locomotive, I hopped over about 10 minutes to Bloomsbury and shot Norfolk Southern on the Ex-Lehigh Valley. And then back over to Carpentersville to catch the 2 o'clock train. A friend of mine I hadn't seen for several years, Don Shadrack. He just happened to cruise by on his motorcycle, recognized me, spun around, came back, got talking to him for a while. He volunteers with the Adirondack Scenic. He's run trains at Steamtown. He's been on several different preservation operations. Anyhow, while we were talking, the train was coming, and I'm like, "Hey, Don, let me put you in the photo." So there's Don on his cycle in the photo with the train going by an old kiln there on the right-hand side. This was nicely lit until a cloud came in and dinked me. Here's the train coming into Regalsville. There's Don on his motorcycle catching up with it in the very back. And here we are in Regalsville. where they are working on the station there. The runaround is just about a quarter mile, not that far, just north of here. They just push back to the runaround, run around the train, head back to Phillipsburg. So that was my weekend with an old friend from South Jersey, up in North Jersey now. Oh, after the trip was over, went back over to Bloomsbury to shoot a few more NS trains. This was coming out of the sun. I thought immediately that this was going to look better in black and white, and I processed it that way. And then one last train showed up before I had to leave. That's going to wrap it up. Next show is on July 19th, about 4 weeks from now. In between now and then, if you are in the area of Reading, Pennsylvania, join me over at Blandon on July 9th for Picnic Rail.
July 8th, Steve.
What's that?
It's July 8th.
July
It's a
8th.
Saturday.
Thank you. Saturday. That's right. The
Yeah.
9th, I'm doing a battleship photo shoot with Pete Laro.
Ah,
New Jersey. July 8th.
okay.
Yes. It's at Mayor's Grove, which is right along the Norfolk Southern ex-Reading main line. Watch trains all afternoon. Phil and his group put on a mighty fine barbecue chicken dinner at 5 o'clock. Watch some more trains, and then I'll do a program as soon as it's dark enough to fire up the projector. So if I don't see you at Picnic Rail on July 8th, I'll see you back here on Zoom on July 19th, or hopefully trackside somewhere. That's going to wrap it up for the tonight's show. Let me sign off for the YouTubers, and then